Which statement is true for most distributions? Either A, approximately 30% of the scores in a distribution are located within one standard deviation of the mean, or B, approximately 50% of the scores are located within one standard deviation of the mean, or C, it's approximately 70%, or D, it's approximately 95%. And what it is we're talking about here is, let's say we have some sort of a distribution where we've got a set of numbers. It makes sense to graph it out, to have a look at this sort of a thing graphically. So let's say I've got a distribution of some values here. So let's say that my average is in and around here. So let's call this 1, 2. These are my scores. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And then up on the side here, I've got my frequencies. And so maybe this is where I've got a frequency of 1, 2, and so on. 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So what it is that I'm trying to show here is that, and I'm not going to do the math so exactly here. Let's just pretend that the average is 3.5. Okay, so let's say that my average is 3.5 and my standard deviation is around, I don't know, 1.5. So what they're talking about here is being located within one standard deviation of the mean. So being within one standard deviation of the mean means that if you start off with the value of the mean and you go ahead by the mean plus one standard deviation, that would be 3.5 plus 1.5, that would bring me up to 5. Or if I was within one standard deviation of the mean the other way, I'm going to be the mean minus a standard deviation, and that would be 3.5 minus 1.5, that's going to be 2. So what they're suggesting here is they want us to identify how many scores are within, what percentage of scores are within the range from 2 to 5 in this example, or very simply just within one standard deviation of the mean, above or below. Now the answer really just is something you have to memorize, at least for this chapter. It's approximately 70% of scores are located within one standard deviation of the mean. I don't really like when you have to answer, I don't like telling you that you have to just memorize answers, but we will get to the proper understanding of this once we get to the videos that walk you through z-scores and how z-scores work with a normal distribution. So until we get up to the chapter dealing with z-scores, this is simply just something you have to memorize, that 70% of scores fall within one standard deviation of the mean. On my graph here, that would look like this. If this is 3.5 here, then to go up to 5 would take me to about there, and down to 2 would take me to about there. And so that's like saying that within that range, this is about 70% of the scores that I'm shading in here. So the majority, a little more than 2/3 of the scores, sit within that range. Now this is just a made-up distribution and I didn't do the math properly. I just wanted to show you what they mean by the bulk of the distributions sitting close to the mean, in fact close enough to be within one standard deviation. The number itself we have to memorize, but don't worry, once we get to z-scores you'll be able to see exactly why this number is the rule of thumb. In fact, it's not even 70%, it's a little bit less than that. But for now, 70% of the scores fall within one standard deviation of the mean, and incidentally, 95% fall within 2 standard deviations. So if I went back another 1.5 or ahead another 1.5, I would find that almost every single score is within 2 standard deviations of the mean.